back. Best Buy's Richard Schulze, that is, and getting to the core of how the Apple verdict affects the smartphone biz. Let's talk to Jonathan Marino. He is editor of Reuters PE Hub. All right, let's talk about Best Buy, because Richard Schulze, he's back at the table with Best Buy. He's
back at the table. He's going to bring a new bid with him, or at least he says. The stock is actually only trading around where it was when he said he could take it private on August 6th, and this might be kind of much ado about nothing for them.
Okay. Trading around where it was, but it's up 7% today to get to that point. Yeah. He can do due diligence, and he can disclose his PE partners.
Yep. He actually might come across with some good partners. They're talking about a 60-day time horizon, but realistically, we're going to be getting into, at this point, October. They're already that close to the holidays. They wouldn't really want to bunch up their holiday sales by also contemplating an LBO at the same time.
Okay, and a few provisions after that. If that doesn't take, he can come back, and he can come back, and then he's got to wait a year, and so on and so forth. All right, but we'll see how this plays out. Apple, in the meantime, shares hit an all-time high coming off of this verdict. Now, let's talk about how there's some other winners here, including the makers of Microsoft Windows phones.
Absolutely. Microsoft was a big winner, not just in the U.S., but also in South Korea, because a separate court decision said that Apple couldn't sell some of its products there. Now, as for Samsung, they basically wound up taking a bullet for Google. It's not really clear how much longer they're going to be a primary partner, because Google obviously owns Motorola Mobility. So they're going to have to take a dumbed-down version of the smartphone to the U.S. market, and that's why Microsoft now has an advantage there. Taking into account also research and motion, for example, they're in a great position now. Their patents are going to be that much more valuable, and because of the suit, Google's going to need to prepare a little bit more of a patent base for whenever Apple goes thermonuclear, as Steve Jobs said.
Good news. We haven't heard good news for research and motion in quite some time.
We might not ever again.
We might not ever again. All right, let's take a look at the broader markets out there. We're fairly flat. NASDAQ up a bit, I think being helped by Apple. And we've got the Jackson Hole meeting coming up with the Fed, waiting to see what the ECB is going to do. Light trading coming up with the Labor Day holiday weekend.
Friday could be big.
Friday could be big. All right, let's move to the hot spot, and as we do, make sure to check out the type that runs across the bottom of the screen for more headlines of the day. Jonathan, some stocks that are moving. Shares of Tiffany are up 7%, although they had its second quarter that it's been down in a row, but not quite as bad as expected, which is interesting because luxury brands like Saks did well. I think people are cutting back on bling before they're cutting back on clothes. Let's move on now to M&T Bank, the deal with them buying Hudson City Bancorp. Hudson City up 15% and M&T up 5%.
Yeah, Wilbur Ross had actually been the big PE buyer in the little listed bank space over the course of 2012. This is actually one of the biggest deals in the space for the entire year. It really marks kind of a high for banking M&A. It remains to be seen exactly how much regulatory guided M&A is going to be taking place in the banking space. Okay,
interesting. And M&T, of course, expanding their presence on the East Coast with this purchase. IBM buying Connexa, the HR software company. Connexa soaring to up 41%.
Another big software deal for the HR services space. SAP SuccessFactors is another one. Cornerstone On Demand and Saba Software are both up big today.
All right. Let's move on and talk about Blackstone, because there's been 6 names now bandied about to take over for CEO Stephen Schwarzman there. What can you tell us?
They're not going to decide it with musical chairs. I have that from an inside source. It's not clear, obviously, when Stephen Schwarzman will leave. One source, I think, said in the story he will die at his desk, so he's obviously really committed to his business. They only took it public in 2007, and maybe investors are expecting them to hang around a little bit at the helm a little while longer, especially because since 2007, the stock is down almost 60%.
Wow, okay. So how important is it, do you think, for there to be these larger than life figures like a Stephen Schwarzman or a Henry Kravis, who I heard just bought some real estate down in Florida, the retiree state, but for guys like that, for them to come up with guys, again, who have these larger than life personalities, or is it more about just running the business and doing it well?
I guess it is a little of A and a little of B. You also have to have, the folks at the top who can go out and present to investors, who can recruit new LPs. Microsoft doesn't have to go out and ask for, $10 billion from its investors every few years. So you need to have a Kravis out there, or a Schwarzman, or a Dan D'Agnello, who's among the leadership group at Carlyle. If you take a look at the other private equity firms who were listed, KKR is one of them, Carlyle Group and Oaktree is obviously another one. Their performance separately hasn't been that consistent since they've gone public, so it's going to be important for the investors to see that they're communicating clearly who their leadership strategy will be.
All right. He runs our Reuters PE Hub, and he's a larger-than-life personality himself, Jonathan Marino. Thanks very much. Follow us on Twitter. Don't forget we are at Reuters Insider, and we've got a YouTube channel. That is Reuters.com/ReutersTV. I'm Lisa Bernhard. This is Reuters.